Okay, today we have Al Franken. Al, it's always a pleasure to have you on.
Always a pleasure to be on.
So, since the last time we spoke, looks like our Jewish space lasers are no longer a secret, so that's a bummer.
Yeah, well, they were bound to find out about them, weren't they?
Yeah, the one thing we had left. Uh,
I know.
so, in all seriousness, I do want to talk about some of these Republican lawmakers. In just the last few weeks, we have people like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who've cheered on the mob that stormed the Capitol. Greene is an avowed QAnon supporter. She said the Parkland shooting was a false flag. I could go on and on. Have
Yeah.
we officially crossed the line from obstructionist Republicans to dangerous ones?
Yeah, they're dangerous. I mean, what they did on January 6th, I mean, and leading up to it in terms of uh, spreading this idea that there was fraud in the election, is dangerous and has been, and it was part of what led to the storming of the Capitol and 5 people dying. And all of these people should be investigated. There should be hearings in terms of what kind of contact these people had uh, with people who invaded the Capitol. And also, it should go. For I was in the Senate, I've Cruz and Hawley and some of the others, definitely the same thing. And I mean, an ethics investigation where they get their emails, where they look at all their emails, where they interview their staff, their political staff, as well as their communications staff, they and their emails, and find out what they were saying to, if they were talking to these organizers, if they knew about it. Also, that they knew that these allegations were of fraud were just false. Um, and then I think they should be expelled after that.
So, I mean, a lot of people are calling for expulsion from Congress for Marjorie Taylor Greene. There was a bill introduced by Democratic lawmaker Jimmy Gomez. They're also calling for the same thing for Cruz and Hawley. What's your take on that, and whether and the likelihood of it actually happening?
Well, I think they should first do an investigation.
Right.
Now, there isn't that much investigating to do on her, but I mean, you could argue that she represents her caucus. So I don't know if you got rid of her. Also, you need 2/3 of the body. So there were, I think, 147 Republicans who
Yeah.
voted to challenge.
Right. Doesn't bode well for the prospect of having 2/3 of the
Yeah,
Congress be able to.
there should be a real ethics investigation and finding out exactly what her history is. I mean, she's this thing of a Hillary Clinton killed a young
Hanging Hillary
woman.
Clinton and Barack Obama. Yeah. I mean,
Well, actually, she also said that Hillary Clinton filleted a young woman's face or something and drank her blood. I mean,
yeah.
it's disgusting and sick, and she should not be anywhere near. She was elected, and again, she kind of represents the Republicans in a caucus to some degree.
Well, Adam Kinzinger tweeted out that Marjorie Taylor Greene, quote, is not a Republican. There are many who claim the title of Republican who have nothing in common with our core values. They are rhinos. She is a rhino. That was his tweet. At what point, when you have nearly the whole party supporting her, are they no longer rhinos? Do they become the actual Republican Party?
Unfortunately, they seem to be the Republican Party right now, and it seems to still be Trump's party. And I let's see how this impeachment goes. Uh, as Adam Schiff said in his closing statement, you all know that he'll do this again. You just know that, right? And they know he'll do it again if he gets to run again, and that he could win, and that this guy has is everything he did was illegal. I mean, what he did, the phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia, that was criminal. He said, find me one more boat than I need, which is, what was it, 11,870 votes.
11,780, yeah.
Yeah, 780.
One more than he lost by.
And what would that have looked like? What would the Secretary of State gone? Would he have had a press conference and said, well, we've looked at it again, and Trump won by one vote. and then at the press conference, did you do a recount? No. We found 11,780 votes. Yeah. And they were all for Trump? Yes. And 0 for Biden? And where'd you find them? In a box. Yeah. Where was the box? Under a table. So you're saying, I mean, that's what Trump was asking for. Yeah. I mean, what was
not even trying to be discreet or subtle, just make it happen. We don't care. Like, optics out the window.
He actually did. He said, give me a break. Give me a break. Come on. Just throw the election for me. Just give me a break. I want it. I want it. And then so we're in a bad place right now, aren't we? Because this is really bad. And my worry is that the Republicans in the Senate will not vote to convict, and they'll be doing exactly the same thing they did last time, except this time I think there'll be witnesses and stuff because Democrats are in the majority, so they can dictate that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure Jamie Raskin will put it to him saying, he'll, if he's allowed to run again, he will, and if he does, he could win. If he did, that'd be the end of our country.
There's a part of me that's like, that I'm trying to reconcile between saying like, okay, if you don't want to hold Donald Trump accountable and he runs again in 2024, which he will inevitably do, and he's already shown us that he can't win a general election because look how many people came out to vote against him to ensure that he didn't get a second term, to reconcile that with the fact that, well, at the same time, he could win. And so you can't even celebrate the prospect of them putting forward a failed candidate because it's not a sure thing that he'd even be a failed candidate. And so they could have the last laugh in the end.
It's also again, when he said, that who he is, who this man is, and they do.
Yeah.
And that man needs to be convicted for the crimes he committed and needs to be sanctioned so that he can't run again for anything. But first you got to convict him in order to get to that. And then that is only on a majority, but getting 2/3 of the Senate is going to be hard. And it's going to be hard because so many of these Republicans come from red states where they think their only possible challenge would come from the right in a primary, and they're not going to lose in a general because their state is so red.
Yeah.
And that's too bad because what that means is they don't care really about principle, and they don't really care about our democracy. Right. And that is sad. That is sad. But I think it just happens to be the case.
Well, Matt Gaetz had gone to Wyoming to start beef with Liz Cheney. And I think we hear in the media a lot how there are these intra-party disputes and there's Dems in disarray and Republicans in disarray. And they prop up these stories because, they get people reading and they're sexy stories. But this is, I think, a literal fight for the future of the Republican Party. So, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if we are unfortunate enough to see Liz Cheney lose in Wyoming, does the GOP devolve into just a full-blown MAGA party? I mean, already the ones that we have left are, I can, count them on one hand between Liz Cheney now and Adam Kinzinger and Mitt Romney, and there's really not much more beyond that.
Yeah, I guess there were 10 in the House, and he wants her primaried. And so it would be Liz Cheney. It's an at-large, seat. So it's the whole state of Wyoming. I remember the Enzies and my wife and I used to throw pizza parties for the pages every class of the pages. And I remember Diana Enzi saying, Mike Enzi was a senator from Wyoming that just retired. And she, at one of the pizza dinners for the pages, said to them, when we go back to Wyoming, we don't ask whether people are Republicans or Democrats. And I said, well, you don't have to, because they're all Republicans. And so, I mean, that, whoever, that'll be a good test of whether what the party is, but I don't know. My suspicion is that she could lose, but I think she will have a political future in some way anyway, because I think what she did was a stand-up thing to do, and the way she did it was she did it in a stand-up way. I'm not a big fan of the Cheneys,
Yeah. Yeah. Just to make this disclaimer for people watching, this is not a Cheney apologist interview right now, but it just goes to show how bad, how bad that other wing of the party is.
But what she did was a very stand-up thing, and she didn't have to do it, but my God, this guy is such an anomaly. He's so awful and distinct from anyone that's ever gone before, and we need to really be rid of him for good. And I hope that can happen in the impeachment, but I don't know if it will.
The last time we spoke, you spoke about how when you were in the Senate, you suggested people walking through metal detectors.
Yeah.
Well,
what it was is that there were a number of birthers in the House of Representatives.
Right.
And if you're a birther, then you think that President Obama was an usurper and that he was illegitimately president. So my feeling was, how can we trust these guys it's crazy what they're doing. How can you trust these guys? Make them go through a metal detector on the way into the chamber for the State of the Union. And I actually pitched that to my chief of staff. And said, no, you can't do that. Yeah. But I felt that that's how crazy it is to say, that Barack Obama wasn't born in Honolulu, and he was born in Kenya. If you think that
this guy isn't a legitimate president, you have these people here. Like, yeah, I mean, if you don't think he's the actual president, then yeah, like, it's not that crazy of a.
Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, and your logic.
But they basically, laughed it off. Turns out they took you up on that now. There are literal metal detectors walking into Congress. So I guess, what's it like to see something that got you laughed at suddenly become reality?
Well, it didn't get me laughed at. It just got my chief of staff going like, no, you can't do that. Yeah. That's not laughed at. Yeah. But this was, I was trying to make a statement about how absurd their stance was, and how absurd and how evil and crazy it was to be accusing the president of the United States of, being born in Kenya and not being legally the president. Yeah. And okay, if you want to do that, go through a metal detector. So I just wanted to do that. And those are the kinds of things that maybe sometimes I regret not having done, because I think they would have made a good point. And now they're going in because there are Republicans who are talking about going into the chamber with guns.
Yeah. And,
I mean, maybe if every member of Congress carried, then you wouldn't have a mob come in and try to, it would have been a lot of carnage. Yeah. Or maybe not. I don't know. It would, I think it's a bad idea to allow them to do that. They're pretty awful. And the ones that won't wear masks, including Marjorie Greene, and that's pretty awful people that, and it's gotten there pretty fast. Not that there weren't awful people there before, but I mean, this is.
We're at the point where I'd rather trade these awful people for the awful people who were there when you were there in a heartbeat. You know, like those awful people don't seem as bad relative to the awful people that we have now.
Yeah. Remember when Tom DeLay was really awful?
Yeah. Gone are the quaint days where Dick Cheney would just shoot somebody in the face and get away with it. You know. So.
Yeah, and remember that was not deliberate.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, Al, thank you so much for taking the time. It's always great speaking with you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cheneys, but I just want to go on record. That was, I think that was an accident. President Cheney didn't deliberately shoot a friend in the face, I believe.